Beard. There's Governor Yost. There's Governor Beard.
Governor Beard's right here. Okay.
You played on a trip.
Prime Beach. Prime Beach.
Yep.
I know, I'm sorry. I know. I thought you were telling me something. Okay, we are trying to stay on schedule, so the chairman has asked me to move this, so we're going to do it. Mikey, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Colson?
Ma'am.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Beard? Here. Mr. Martin? Mr. Perez is not here. Mr. Stavros?
Here.
Mr. Temple?
Mikey, I need to go get him.
Thank you, Diane. So Mr. Temple will be here, and Dr. Yost? Here. Mr. Edwards, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The minutes are in the materials. Is there a motion to approve those?
Mr. Chair, and Ms. Duncan is also on the line. Thank you, Ann.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted? Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, in your packet of materials, as you will recall, a couple of meetings ago, we started providing the committee with the bond issues that were going to be coming up at the next meeting so that they would have ample time to review these. That material is in the packet, University of Florida, Florida Gulf Coast, and Central Florida. There is also the University of South Florida is shown on here. Tomorrow we're going to have a brief discussion on that issue. Hopefully we're going to have a special call meeting of the committee and the conference call of the full board in December, provided that everything works out, because that is an exception to our policy, but there's some substantial savings involved that will certainly benefit the system and, more importantly, the students. So we're not making a waiver of any policy. We're changing some of our rules to benefit that, but that's not going to happen very often. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead. The first resolution, Chris, would you mention this briefly?
Hear me? First resolution is for Florida State University for its 6th parking garage. Currently, there's a severe demand for parking at Florida State University. They have 29,000.
This has been approved by staff and by board?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Are there any questions on this? If not, is there a motion to approve? Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Passes. Okay. Chris, go ahead to the next one.
I'll move ahead. This is for North Florida. This is for a student wellness center to be paid for from the student wellness fee. Again, it's been reviewed by staff and Division of Bond Finance. It's in compliance, and I have no further comments to make.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
The students at the University of North Florida have been engaged in this process for the last few years. They're very, very aware of what's going on. They're excited about the Wellness Center naturally, and yes, it's a creative way to increase fees and use those fees to issue debt. And at the same time, I think that they were strategic and innovative to do so, to kind of place amenities on campus that are going to increase the quality of life of the students there at the University of North Florida. And the students are 100% behind it.
Is there a further requirement that the president be mandated to work out there? Okay.
You're assuming by looking at me I don't, apparently.
Okay. Thank you, Governor Franklin. Is there a motion to approve? Second. All in favor say aye. Pass. The next next request is West Florida, and before Chris mentions that, I just want to express my appreciation to President Bentz and her staff. This is not the way they actually initially wanted this to work out. We had some over an hour phone conference. They fully understood where our committee was coming from, and that we do have rules and regulations, and our responsibility is to try to keep those in place. What they'd asked for was not unreasonable, but there was a problem. It would have required a waiver, and after discussing it, they very graciously decided not to. I gave them the opportunity to come to the full board, and they elected not to do that, but to change it so that it fully conformed, and we certainly appreciate that, Judy. Okay, Chris.
Yeah, and I'll add to, I really appreciate President Benson, her staff, especially Pat Lott, their general counsel. They've done a wonderful job on this proposal. It is in compliance with the board deck guidelines. They issue traditionally on parity through the Escambia County Housing Authority. It's a housing issue for $30.5 million. They just opened a new dorm this fall, and already they find that it's over-occupied. So under President Benson's leadership, the university has been growing. Particularly, they've been growing, not from Escambia County, from other counties where there's a greater demand for dorm space. So it's in compliance, and I'd be glad to take any questions on that.
The question that we had initially, so that the board understands, was we require our bond issues to amortize over the period of the repayment, and they had requested some years of interest only before it started to amortize. So is there a motion to approve? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Motion passes. Concluding remarks and adjournment. I've said all I care to say. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, you may want to ask Chris, just to make sure we're maintaining our position on just teasing out that issue of the December meeting just a little bit more to make sure people know what we're trying to accomplish there.
My understanding was we were going to discuss this with the full board tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yes.
Very fine.
We did discuss it briefly in your absence.
That works.
And we can do some things, Frank, without you here.
Just want to make sure you do them well.
We are adjourned.
I have a question.
I'm sorry. We're not adjourned.
So you anticipate, Charlie, that you will further discuss this issue as a part of the report out
and we
for
can,
your committee?
on USF?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can discuss it now. I didn't know we wanted to do it today. What we have here is a situation where USF failed to meet the committee's time requirements for when they file this. And as I mentioned to some of the USF people tomorrow, I'm going to make it clear to President Genshaft that we don't make exceptions very often. They knew the rule, they didn't follow it, but the loser here would be the system and the students, because it does save several millions of dollars by going through the program, which expires on December 31st. Now, in order to do this, our staff has really done a tremendous job of reviewing this in a short time frame. Hopefully, we can get it through the state in the same time frame, and assuming that everything is positive at that point, which we think it will be, the chair has indicated that if the will of the board tomorrow is to do this, we will probably hold a conference call, which in effect will be a committee meeting and a board meeting all at once, and get this approved for them in December, because it has to meet the particular federal program, it has to be approved, I think, by December 31st is my understanding. Is that correct, Chris?
Correct. That's the Build America Bonds program, and I believe there was at some point earlier in the year talk of extending that program, but to this point it has not been extended, so it would expire at the end of this calendar year.
Yes.
Could I have
Yeah.
I'm not on the committee.
No, help
but
yourself.
I'd just like to make a comment. Each time we approve these bonds, somehow somebody has to pay for it. And I had a discussion, and I said, I think it's important that you bring up how much it's going to cost the student when we approve these. It's not just a bond, but hidden inside is another little expense to the student. The one that just pops out because it's in the presentation is the one at Florida State. The transportation access fee was increased from $7.40 per credit hour for the 09-10 academic year to $7.90 per credit hour for the academic year 2010 to 11. There's going to be another annual increase of 50 cents per credit hour for the next 2 academic years. So, you know, when you approve all of this, you're really talking about big money. You know, some student that maybe doesn't drive a car is still paying, you know, $8.50 a credit hour. So I guess there's no other way to fund this. They can't come up with a policy in which they charge to go in the garage or whatever. I understand that. But because I always try to say that each time we do something and we talk about fees, they come at us at a little bit. And then we'll have another meeting and we'll talk about the fact that the health fee is only going to be, you know, $800 a year. It's not really significant, and that's only going to be another $30 or $40 per credit hour. And then the athletic fee is only going to be $14 or $15 a credit hour, whatever. Eventually, it adds up to real money. And so I guess the purpose is that, you know, will we ever get to a point where we'll see, you know, across the board at one time how much we're actually charging the student to go to the university? I know we're going to see a 15% increase, probably request for tuition. And then I saw the University of North Florida. They had a fee that they needed to do something, and that was $15 a credit hour or something. So I guess my point is I still want to talk about the fact that, well, on the other side, I understand we're only X number of percentage. We're still in the low part in how much we charge people. We've got to keep focused on the fact that each time we approve these things, the cost does go up. This is going to go up for 20 years. They can't get out of it. It's there. And so I guess the only way that we make sure those people in this state that don't have the ability to do this is that, you know, we've got to watch out and we've got to make sure we're putting money away to help those people that can't pay the tuition, because there are still people out there. But when you read this, it's like we're just doing a bond deal, but it's not about how much the student's going to have to pay, you know, to build that garage.
Your point is well taken. I would like to point out, however, that the policy of the Facilities Committee is only to ensure that the proposals presented to us are in conformity with our rules and regulations and have, more importantly, been approved by the Board of Trustees of those individual universities. And this was a position I think that you have always wanted to stay there. So this didn't come to us cold. And again, our job is not to look at what the amount of the fee is. Now, the overall structure, I understand, and your point was well taken. I agree there should be some review. But from our perspective, all we are doing is, one, making sure that it complies with the state regulations, with our regulations, that it is feasible, and two, that it's been approved by the Board of Trustees. And I think, again, that's the people who should make this decision. President Barron, I noticed you. Chairman Barron has, President Barron has the floor.
Well, I just wanted to say that if you do go collect that information, collect more information than what the cost will be, because in the particular case that you cited, this was at the request of our students wanting more parking. And they were the ones that voted, not just for one garage, but multiple garages, because more and more students want their cars on their campus, and we have more and more cars associated with our students. So it is something that we consistently go to them to ask them for a green light on these fees. So I just want to make sure it's not us thinking that we can put more in the backs of our students. It's our students saying we want more parking. We want GPS on top of our buses so we don't have to sit there and wait if we've missed the bus. So they're asking for this.
Okay, I think we,
I'm sorry, I just want to make one comment. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I think that, Norm, I hear your concern, and I think that it just turns out that that information happened to be included as a part of the bond, I guess the information for us to approve the bond resolution. I don't know, we've gotten to the root of what the problem is as far as you're concerned, is that, are we nickel and diming the students and the families too much? And the question is just where do we put the issue?
Yeah, I'm not trying to say nickel and diming. I'm not trying to say you don't need the garage. I'm not trying to say any of those things. I know I'm a kind of a lonely voice out here, but I'm trying to make sure in my role in representing, the people out there, that this board understands and that the system understands that each time a fee goes on, somebody has to pay it. And that it's not just tuition, or it's not just a health fee, or it's not just a parking fee, or this fee. I mean, when you look at the list of fees, there's 15 or 20 of them. And if every year we raise each one of those fees 50 cents, 75 cents, it becomes very, very expensive. I raise this because I was a very, very poor person going to college, okay? And I had trouble paying. And I didn't necessarily have all the brains so that I could get a lot of scholarships. So I had to work for it, and I had to make my way, and I did it. I got to night law school. And so I'm trying to speak for a group of people in the state, okay, that struggle to get an education, okay, that have to borrow money. Each year we see the amount of borrowing that students that are in my kind of situation have to do. It goes up, and I'm just trying to make sure we focus on it. I don't know whether or not the state should pay more tuition, or whether it should be like the article that they sent out about Great Britain, that they feel that students should pay more of their tuition, that it shouldn't be a gift. But I just try to point out that each time we charge more, somebody has to pay it. And that was my purpose, Charlie.
I understand, and I think we all share your concerns there. I think that Chairman Parker did point out, though, that that's really not a direct function of this committee. Okay, with anyone else have any comments? If not,
still have a very low tuition. We still have a lot of scholarships that we try to do, and I think every one of us is cognizant of costs. And I would just like to get on with this committee meeting, please.
okay, we are adjourned.
Yeah, if you would go over to Ann now, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Ann, are you ready for me to call the roll for your committee? You ready? Okay. The Vice Chair of the Student Affairs Committee is Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin.
Present.
Mrs. Frost. Mrs. Frost? She's here. Dr. Marshall?
Here.
Mr. Martin is not here. Commissioner Smith is not here. Mr. Stavros?
Here.
Thank you. And Dr. Yost? Here. You have a quorum. Ms. Duncan?
Great. And again, I apologize for not being there, but we thought it might be more expeditious if I let Vice Chair Franklin kind of run with the meeting here. So I'll be on and listening, but Gallup, if you don't mind running with it, that would be great.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the Academic and Student Affairs Committee meeting held on September 16, 2010.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.